The Nifty.Show.
Ja, ist der Nifty.Show. I'm Joel Com.
And I'm Zach Com.
I'm
not German. He's not German either.
Yesterday I identify as a German. Shoot. I can be what I want to be in this world. Welcome to the Nifty.Show, gang. This is Joel and Zach here for you today. And as the NFT world continues to develop, we are seeing some top-level talent enter the space and awaken to the vision that are NFTs. And today's guests are no exception. The company is called Macroverse, and the co-founders, Eben Matthews and Ricci Rukavina, are with us today. These guys have a storied background in entertainment and marketing and branding. We're going to meet them right now. Gentlemen, welcome to the Nifty.Show.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Why don't we start with you, Eben? Just give us the Reader's Digest 15-second version of your background, and then Ricci will do yours.
This is so hard for me, the 15-second version, but so I've
an 3 seconds gone already.
Boom! Illustration degree. Thought I was going to draw comics for a living. I ended up starting a branding and media agency in the early days of Flash taking over the web. So we ended up making lots of highly interactive digital experiences. That led to animation, game development, other forms of media. And so at this point, I've written, directed, and produced live action content, animated content, video game content, kind of you name it. We've collectively had some piece of it, and I've done a lot of that as well. So making stuff is kind of what I do.
That's good. And, Ricci, we'll give you 30 seconds too. Time. Go for it. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Eben's a hard act to follow, but sure. My background is in film and television. I got my start working with Spielberg and his producers, Kathy Kennedy and Frank Marshall. Worked on a ton of films, Jurassic Park and Twister and all of those kinds of things, and got wise to the game industry, which is what I kind of built up growing, building computer games and building computers. And so I worked at Universal with Insomniac and Naughty Dog, and then built the mobile division at Disney, and finally decided, I should start my own company. So I started a couple of companies, bought and sold those, one of which was Kung Fu Factory, working on licenses, things like Adventure Time and SpongeBob and WWE and NBA. And then, combined with Eben and Adam about a year and a half ago, and we got, this idea to build this Marvel of the future, HBO of the future, with blockchain and NFTs and comic books. And here we are today.
See, I didn't do any name dropping. I feel like I missed my opportunity.
big name, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Better, etc.
Yeah. Well, we get
it. There was a key phrase there that I think is worth exploring more, because stating that you're trying to become the Marvel or the HBO of blockchain, there's a lot of weight behind that. So what is the central pursuit? How do you express the vision in what will concretely be produced, what you're trying to concretely produce?
So let me take a stab at this, and then Ricci, I'll add to it. So I think there's kind of two theses that come together to be the foundation of this. So the first one is that the way entertainment has been evolving, and the way we see it continuing to evolve, is that the framework for building content, stories, I'm going to call them franchises, is a collection of experiences rather than a singular point of entry. And so what I mean by that is that as you think about a story and a group of characters in a world, let's think Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that we want a lot of experiences with these characters in these worlds that we come to love, relate to, and want to spend time in. And so our thesis is that we can build multiple experiences, whether that's comics, film, TV, games, new media, NFTs, and bring all those things together in a way that, number one, creates a lot of different ways for people to get into those worlds and experience that content. And number two is a way to build a franchise from the bottom up, where you can have a lot of different kind of very focused pieces of content that lean into the strengths of each medium that we're building things in. So that's kind of point number one. And then point number two, the second thesis that comes together with that is what we've fallen in love with in Web3 is the community participation aspect of it, the ability to truly align incentives between the fan, the creator, the collector, and kind of every person in the participation of that property and the development of those things as franchises. And so to make it personal for 1 second, I grew up wanting to be a comic artist, thinking that's what I was going to do. And if I had had the chance at 14 to go pitch something to Marvel or to DC or, any of the companies or people that I was in love with, and had I been the person to then create that thing and then participate in the life of that thing throughout its evolution into entertainment, I would have been over the moon for that opportunity, let alone for it to actually happen. And when you hear a story like not Jason Brubaker, sorry, that's one of our creators, Ed Brubaker, who created the Winter Soldier, getting like $5,000 for that character becoming a central part of the MCU, like that's a situation we don't want anything to do with. We want someone that creates the Winter Soldier in the umbrella that we're building and the ecosystem that we're developing to be massively rewarded for that contribution at a scale that's commensurate with the impact that it has across the franchise.
You guys are already in a rich media space. For those of you that I don't know, if you go to the App Store, or at least for iOS, I don't know if you got it for Google also, there's the Macroverse app. And this is it's a living comic book app with a lot of content in here. This is really fun to play with. This is kind of, the future of comic books. And I think you guys, when you discovered NFTs, made the natural connection, right, Ricky, to go, holy crap, comics, these are made for the NFT world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we sort of find is, in any kind of medium, whenever there's a technology shift, storytelling is one of the oldest pastimes in humankind and how we relate to each other, how we connect to each other, right? And technology is something that always shifts and augments that, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And it's why we use the Marvel example or the HBO example, and there's obviously a couple of other examples. Pixar is another great example. They have amazing technology, but they always have amazing stories. Marvel is so successful right now because they always have amazing stories. And, I think part of our thesis is that the seed is that story, but we can use technology in a way that really brings people together or tells new stories, tells better stories, finds great stories. And comics is a great way to start there, right? Because, not everybody has $100 million in their pocket, or $500 billion or whatever it takes to make some of these amazing and, very expensive franchises.
I only have $25 million in my pocket at the moment, so I'm not quite there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
I'm
Not
sorry.
enough.
That was $25. I just put too many zeros. A mistake.
Now, what I'm hearing is
so, that it really, it really does kind of, it's part of that decentralization that's going on, and that equality and really leveling the play field. I think we're able to do that with this amazing technology of NFTs, of blockchain, of Web 3.0 and what it can be and what it's becoming. And it's pretty exciting. It's pretty amazing to be a part of that.
So to be clear, this is not the kind of thing where a pool of thousands of consumers are like minorly directing a branching path in the narrative. You're actually attempting to cultivate a space in which you can identify and include exceptional talents from within your community in order to build upon the foundation that exists with your original franchises.
Yeah, I'll say within and without, right? Of course, we want to work with amazing talent that may not, that exists already and have created things, and we are working with some of those people. But of course, we want to work with, cultivate, and find. Just yesterday, we kicked off one of our first storytelling 101s, within Discord and our channel to foster some of this talent and the ideas that flow within the chat, where we've got chat going and we've got a voice chat going at the same time, which is kind of how things are done now. So that doesn't mean that we're going to have 100 people writing at once, but it does mean that we can really look for people. People can, showcase the things that they're good at and that they're not so good at. They can learn, they can evolve, they can be part of something. And that's really what separates, I think, Web 3.0 and the past, is that the community can get involved in a way. Hollywood's known for closing its doors to talent, right? The book publishing industry is known for closing its doors. J.K. Rowling absolutely just rejected over and over again. People in Hollywood never being able to get this amazing script made, but then we get a film about a dog and you know and his man, right? So we want to really look for this talent that has maybe a harder time, but is extremely. We see what Fiverr does. We see what the playing field of NFT PFPs can do for a single artist or a single person out there or a multiple new team. And why not get together and create, the next Game of Thrones, the next Walking Dead, the next Marvel, superhero or whatever story that's out there that needs to be told. And I think the last thing I'd say, and it can be personal. It doesn't need to be this action blockbuster. It can be something, really meaningful and impactful, like Mouse. Imagine something like MAUS, Mouse, existing for the first time on Web 3.0 and finding that artist and finding that voice. I think we want to try to foster those types of relationships and
Was it Art
types of
Spielman? Was that the
Or
guy's
Spiegelman,
name?
yeah.
Spiegelman, yeah.
Spiegelman.
I like dog movies, though. I like dog.
Yeah.
And a quick story here, I have to tell you. I will never forget being on an airplane, sitting in a middle seat, watching Marley and Me on the way back from somewhere, and tears are just running down my face. I'm between two strangers, and they must. What is wrong with this guy? The dog died. It's horrible. I mean, if you don't cry watching Marley and Me, then you have no soul. There's just something.
Yeah,
But
can't disagree with that.
I agree.
Your first use case of this is actually based on one of the comics that I see in the Macroverse app. It's called DeadTown, and let's take a look at this here at macroverse.com. This is front and center. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so DeadTown is a series. So going back to this kind of history of different types of entertainment, our other co-founder Adam and I, created this series over a decade ago, initially as a television pitch. And so we were, at CAA, pitching this as a TV show. We have a little bit of bitterness around the fact that The Walking Dead got sold at the exact same time that we were pitching it, which we're pretty convinced killed the show. But this, was originally written as a TV pilot, as a screenplay or as a script. Is in this development cycle. And then once it got kind of shelved as a television property, we moved on to a bunch of other stuff. But as we started to get into comics and making comics, it was one of the things that kind of came right back to the forefront of like, oh, we could take this world. And this is actually a really good example. The story that we're telling in the comic is not the story of the TV show. So we know what the story of the TV show is, but we felt like let's lean into what we can do uniquely well in comics and tell a different story in that medium. We did a DeadTown series on an app called Yarn a couple of years ago, which is a whole different tangent, but it's a totally different format. It's a chat fiction format. So you're like reading the story in the form of text messages going back and forth between characters. And that became a different story in this universe. So already there are 4 different, stories that exist in the DeadTown universe. 2 of which are out there, but we know what the game is. We know what, these different components are as it continues to develop. And now bringing NFTs into the mix, it actually allows us to expand another storyline, which is kind of the first use case for this collection, which is that as you create your character in this world, and you'll see if you click into the avatar builder, you are actually creating your character in our system here. So we built an app where you get to fully customize the NFT that you create. And when you create your character, you then bring it to us on Discord. We work with you. We're building tools that you'll be able to come back to the website and interact with, where you create storylines and concepts around these characters. And then we have a whole process. Ricky mentioned the storytelling 101 sessions that we're doing. We have a whole process where we work with the community and the people that are collectors in this collection and on into the rest of the stories and worlds that we're launching this year, where those stories then have an ability to be pitched to the community and then greenlit into production, initially as part of an anthology series, and then on from there into potentially larger and larger, roles, if you will, in the overall franchise. So this is just the first of 10 properties that we're launching this year, and a very exciting roadmap, if you will, for where this is all headed.
The first of 10. Can you talk about some of the other properties that are coming to the NFT space?
Yeah, so I mean, the next one we can definitely talk about, which is called Aerosol, and Aerosol is super cool. It's a very anime-esque kind of art style, totally different than DeadTown. So if you're listening, DeadTown is this neo-noire zombie post-apocalyptic world. We think we've got a very unique take on the zombie post-apocalyptic world, but very different style with Aerosol. Aerosol is more kind of all ages, again, sort of anime inspired, and this incredible kind of concept where at its core, art and creativity and expression creates the foundation for essentially kind of superpowers and supernatural abilities in this world. So it initially follows the story of a graffiti bomber and the kind of cyberpunk-esque civilization that's developed is trying to actually shut down people that are writing graffiti and expressing themselves in this way. And this graffiti artist is one of the first to kind of connect into this fundamental kind of power source, discover their own abilities. And so as we get into the world of Aerosol, you'll go through a similar process of creating your own character, going through this storytelling process with us, but in the context of a totally different world and environment. And then, what a little spoilery alpha here, and then I'll finally stop talking, is that, we also have the opportunity across all of these different worlds, very much like an MCU, to look for ways to interconnect them over time. And so that is part of the plan as well.
I guess I'll
ahead.
just really quickly interject is just, there's a lot of different genres that we're really already at work on. There's some that exist in the app already. And, everything from Westerns to sci-fi to, you kind of name it, noir, neo-noir, dramas. There's some comedic stuff. There's some, all ages type of stuff. And the idea is really just to, really look for these amazing stories that we think, can exist in this form, and then really start to either cross-pollinate or to, as we kind of gamify some of the things that we're working on and use the live operational tricks that we've seen and used in games and things like that, expand these universes beyond what people have really seen some of these other projects do. And I think we'll be able to do it in a way because, you're talking to three people, all three of us, meaning founders, that have executed before, again and again and again. It's not just, we have an idea and we think we can deliver on this roadmap and we'll figure it out. We've built these companies and we've built these, these stories and these projects, again and again. So that's what we're trying to do with all of these different storylines.
I've been in here creating with your DeadTown Zed avatars, and I'm trying to create the most normal looking zombie that I can. I think this is him right here. I think this is the most least undead that
he may be able to slip inside a bank and get past maybe a guard or two. Maybe.
Well, there's a part of the story in this world where there's an actual kind of evolution to the zombies. So when you first get infected, you've got this kind of burst of superhuman ability. You can kind of parkour up walls and do all this kind of crazy stuff. So a fresh outbreak is incredibly dangerous. And then over time, they kind of break down and become the more kind of Romero-esque stumblers, if you will. So we get this kind of life cycle to our zombies. So you're right in kind of fresh runner territory, right?
Yeah, this guy, he's asymptomatic, basically.
Yeah.
He's a super spreader. And
there you go.
Exactly. So now that this is cool because, most of the generative projects, they're random. right? You
Yeah.
just you spend your money, and it's gambling in a sense because you don't know what you're going to get. You're hoping for something rare, but if you want an avatar, something that you're going to use in a game, in an app, and you want to make it yourself, you can do that, and then you can mint it.
Yeah.
And can somebody else mint the same exact one that I've
So
minted?
you actually can. Now, there are 700 traits that we've put in here, and we're actually adding new traits over the course of the next month or so. So we've got a lot of kind of exclusive 24-hour traits, limited edition traits, kind of new things that the artist that we're working with is continuing to put into the collection. So it'll be a lot of fun from there. But we actually, I think it's going to be interesting to see if anyone does happen to mint the same character. Then we've got this whole concept in mind around like, what does it mean to be a twin in this world, and what are the implications of that? So I think there's some fun things that we can kind of play with if that happens. And yet, I'll also be very surprised if it happens unless it's intentional.
It's
The
also
idea.
probably worth pointing out that some of the accessories are the thing that are rare as opposed to
Mhm.
the actual thing that you start with, the zombie that you start with. So those are the things that will sell out, and then we will, like you said, we're trying to do something a little different here, which is that we'll have this open. It won't be a standard minting where you've got like 10 seconds to go get something. On Tuesday we may throw up this new hairstyle, and on Friday we may throw up something super cool that you haven't been able to get before. So we'll always play with that customization aspect and make events out of some of the things that we drop with partners, and relate to the storyline and that kind of thing, but just make sure that people can have fun with it, but also kind of get what they want and what they're after and what they're trying to craft.
So
Yeah.
this might be a real stretch, but would it ever be possible for somebody who mints their deadhead early to modify it later with a limited attribute?
That's a very interesting question, which I'm going to intentionally avoid answering.
No.
I do not blame you.
Nicely done.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah.
There's
I
my
mean,
guy right there, by the way. There he
yeah,
is.
there's your guy. So I think what you're going to see, and this gets into a little bit of what we're building over the course of this year. We've approached this very much like we would any other sort of production or kind of building a company, in that we've got some very short-term objectives, some medium-term objectives, and some long-term objectives, and kind of milestones that we will hit along the way. So what you'll actually slowly see over the course of the next handful of months is the same website, the same app evolve with more and more and more features. So right now, like you just said, you can go see the characters in your collection right on the website right after you've minted. Of course, they're also on OpenSea and other places like that. But you'll come back in a week from now and be able to click on that character in your collection, and there'll be new things that you can do. And then a week or two later, you'll come back and there'll be new things that you can do and new things that we're revealing. So there's a bunch of things that we've noticed in the space over the past year as we've been building that we've tried to address in our own kind of particular way. One is that question of getting to actually create a character that you at least like the look of, whether or not they end up being the rarest in the collection or not. And then number two is, once you've got this thing, what do you do with it? And there are a lot of projects which are, hey, here's this roadmap. If and when we mint out, we'll start doing stuff. Or at 25%, we'll start doing stuff. And so we wanted to know, when we launch this first project, no, there's stuff to do immediately. Like, you can start plugging into this ecosystem from day one and then just watch it grow. And so by summer, you'll have NFT comics on the platform. You'll have, some gamification that we're working on within the platform. We'll have all the storytelling tools that we're talking about built into the platform itself. So they're just kind of a feature set of just kind of release after release after release throughout the course of this year, where, frankly, the earlier you get involved in the ecosystem, the more benefit you're going to get over that all rolling out.
It would be a fun mechanic that you could play off of that's been done. You have, like the bored apes became mutant apes by
Yeah.
consuming this vial. You could write into the story, well, who was this
Yeah.
person before? And something that they take or you combine, and using the traits that were selected, you guys reverse engineer it and create this human
Yeah.
before they became zombified.
Yes. It's so
Yeah,
you
super cool.
guys are like inside our brains. Like I'm not
It's
going to give too
scary
much
in there. I'm just
away,
gonna
but
say
I
it's
mean,
a
I
little
don't know.
dusty, but very
It's
scary.
a little dusty, little neo-noir. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Amazing.
there's a lot of fun stuff coming. And, the ways that we look at the intersection of kind of the interactivity and the experience piece of it with the storytelling piece of it, with the gamification piece of it, and like bringing all those things together in a kind of constantly evolving, kind of thing that you can engage in, I think is going to be very exciting for people as we continue to roll this out.
So, aside from the opportunity to contribute to potentially canon, what
Yeah.
are some of the benefits that you think people are going to be purchasing DeadTown avatars for?
So I think the core thing at the moment is the story development piece of it, being able to shape the world, being able to participate in not just the singular story of your character, but over time, play a larger role in the, overall development of the franchise. As Ricky touched on, part of this is also working with and identifying talent, especially, from within the community. And so as that happens, there will be other opportunities for people to engage across different projects into different properties and ultimately pitch and develop their own properties within the ecosystem. So we're building a lot of the infrastructure and the tooling, both on the creative side and the tech side, to facilitate this kind of world of storytelling and franchise development, and then letting people plug into that kind of at whatever level they want to.
Is it fun for you guys to go here on OpenSea and look at what people have, created so far? Because you can go through
Oh,
and
It's
pretty much see.
it's so
it's
fun.
so
Yeah.
cool. So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and what's cool, what people don't even realize is that, they're kind of getting into something that has these long legs where, what they create and some of the collections that they get involved in will be part of a little bit larger meta collections and will stack. So if you participated in DeadTown, you're gonna get something special in Aerosol, and our airdrop strategy, across all of these projects is, I think, going to be really, really unique and tie into, future projects like games. And so, our plans are pretty extensive, but what's really fun is exactly what you said, is what are people creating? Because that is going to help mold some of this collection strategy and some of this airdrop strategy to see where people are spending their time and how creative they get, and build out some of these worlds in a macroverse fashion, right? Macro as opposed to meta. Macro is large, it's inclusive, it's
Mhm.
building something very big together. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, gang, go check it out here at macroverse.com. Go create your avatar and share it with us on Twitter. Make sure you tag these guys at Macroverse. Is that right?
At Macroverse HQ.
At Macroverse HQ, so they can see it, and I'm sure they'll be happy to amplify your beautiful creation. And we are going to be keeping our eyes on what you guys are doing, because you're leading the way in a lot of ways in terms of multimedia approaches to NFTs. So thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah.
And just one final note, we do have 2 exclusive items that will be hitting the drop on the day this episode comes out. So just anyone that wants those, pay attention to the Twitter feed or join us on Discord, and you can get all the details on that. But
Nice.
yeah, we're very, very happy to have been able to chat about this today, and really appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah,
Cool.
thank you guys. Really fun, really fun. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, fellas. Hey, Zach, what should this guy's name be?
He looks like a Thomas.
His
I don't
friends
know.
call him
I'm
Tom,
just
though.
getting that is a first name. Thomas Baumgartner.
Tommy B, as his friends knew him back then. Now he's Tom Zombie. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us for another episode of Nifty Show, bringing you the front lines, the cutting edge of the NFT space. Remember, we were the first to cover NFTs on the Bad Crypto podcast back in December 2017, and the Nifty Show is the world's first NFT podcast. We're coming up on 2 years in May. Pretty amazing. And Zach, I'm glad you're along for the ride, and Sir Lord Travis joins us occasionally. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fantastic to be tuned into all the new cool stuff that's happening and see everything progress in real time.
And I guess we'll talk to you guys soon. So get us out of here.
Keep it nifty.
That's how we
Looking
leave.
into the future, what do we see? It's lined with digital collectibles, we call them NFTs. Games, trading cards, digital art, and those crypto kitties. Joel and Zach are the hosts, you'll know. Joel and Zach say this will blow. They're locked and loaded, so ready, set, go! It's the Nifty, really kind of spiffy. The Nifty.